My name is Brian S. Watson, and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going to read you some poems from my most recent book entitled Brian's Poems. And I'm going to read one of my poems entitled Wanting to Be Loved. And it goes something like this. Longing for connection, wanting to be loved by someone, anyone, feeling so much unbearable sadness and loneliness. And that was from my poem entitled Wanting to Be Loved. I'll read another one entitled Watching My Coworkers Are Thinking as They Work. Watching the people at my job as they work, wondering to myself, what are they thinking at the moment when they're busy? Working, what, working and what they are feeling at the moment that they're busy doing their job. And basically that that is their entire lives outside of work. The GOP finally standing up for finally standing. The next one I'm going to read is entitled "The GOP Finally Standing Up for the Gay Community." It goes something like this: I just saw an article about how the GOP in one of the states in the U.S. is going to censure one of their members for, I think, legislating same-sex marriage in whatever state they were talking about in the article. The point is, I say good for this in the GOP, standing for gay couples everywhere. I mean, enough of this discrimination against the gay community, I think, personally. Good for her, I say. Good for her. I'm going to read another poem entitled Another Beautiful Day. Another nice, beautiful spring day here in good old Nashville, Tennessee. I had a good night's sleep. I feel fantastic. Plenty of energy, and the fact that it's a sunny day always helps. I'll read another poem that is entitled "The Weather is Finally Warming Up." The weather is changing. The temperature is rising. The weather is finally getting warmer, and the days are finally getting sunnier. As from a poem entitled "The Weather is Finally Warming Up." I'll read another poem entitled Living in Confusing Times. And it goes something like this. We are living in confusing times right now, and I just hope the human race can find their way back to the promised land before it's too late. That was from my poem entitled Living in Confusing Times. I'm going to read another poem entitled A Sign of the Times. What's happening in the political right now is a sign of the times that we are currently living in, and the Republicans have no one to blame but themselves for this chain of events. People are just sick of their crap. It's as simple as that. And this loss in Wisconsin is an example of that. And that was from a poem entitled A Sign of the Times. I'm going to read another poem entitled The Snow is Finally Melting. And it goes something like this. I just took my daily walk around my neighborhood and noticed the snow is finally melting from the previous snowfall here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm just glad it's finally melting so I can look forward to spring and summer getting here this year. And that was from a poem entitled entitled The Snow is Finally Melting. I'm going to read another poem entitled Sounds in My Condo. And it goes something like this. The soothing sound of the fan coming from my bedroom. The relaxing sound of the air conditioner running in my condo. And that was from a poem entitled Sounds in My Condo. I'll read another poem entitled Feeling Like Spring Again. It goes something like this. It's finally starting to feel like spring again, and the sun is shining. There's not a cloud in the sky. And that was from my poem entitled Feeling Like Spring Again. And I'm going to read another poem entitled The Price of Technological Progress. The changing of the times, the death of traditional movie theaters looming, the rise of streaming, and the slow but eventual death of traditional network and cable television. That is from a poem entitled The Price of Technological Progress. I'll read another poem entitled Watching the Squirrels. I was walking outside and I just noticing how funny squirrels look when they're looking for food, especially how they act so jumpy and hyper when they're looking for acorns. I mean, I was watching a squirrel one time when I was at the bus stop and I was watching how he behaved. And it got me thinking squirrels are actually pretty fun to watch when they're running all over the place. And that was from a poem entitled Watching the Squirrels. And read another poem entitled Books I've Read During the 1980s. Yes, I definitely think there was an activity better than when technology came out, and that would be simply reading books. Something I did a lot of growing up in the 1980s as a kid. I mean, I read all kinds of books, like, for example, The Invisible Man by Golden Apple Books, the Young Astronaut book series, 2 books from the classic Star Trek book series of books, and Teacher's Pet by the famous author R.L. Stine. Also, another series of books, Drifter's War, and Drifter's Run. And that was from a poem entitled Books I've Read During the 1980s. I'm going to read from another poem entitled The Beauty of Everyday Life. My life has gotten a little routine and boring, but on the upside of things, there are still things in everyday life that never seems to amaze me. Like, for example, when somebody at your job smiles at you, or when you make somebody makes somebody laugh. You make somebody laugh. I mean, those are the things that make life worth living, I think. And that's it for my post reading today. Thanks for listening and have a nice day. I'll talk to you soon.